Hey everybody, guess what? It's episode 9. I'm here with my friend Rob. Lil. She's not fired yet. We're still keeping her on. I'm just kidding.
I broke this fan because of you, Billy. I will break this fan because of you, Billy. Hi, guys, gals.
I thought you broke that fan on a live. How did you break that fan because of me?
Billy, you know how many times I've had to beat you with that fan previously? That's why it got weak, okay? There's literally, I don't know where it went. I dropped, oh, there it is. This fan is like literally, there's nothing left to it. This is, you've messed up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Oh, there went my headphone.
You know what's funny, guys? Off camera, when she does a little hee, like those like anime like girls. Watch, Lil, go ahead. No, come on with the fan. Do it with the fan.
You want me to go quiet for you, okay? I didn't do vocal warm-ups for this.
I don't think. Geez. Did you do it last time? She does it all the time. Go ahead, try it.
Billy is a liar. I haven't watched Sailor Moon since I was like 13, okay?
Then I don't remember. Seriously, she did this like 10 minutes ago, right before we went live. It was hilarious. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's as good as I can get. I'm so sorry.
Why do you do this? I put you on the spot all the time. You could just say no, and we would continue.
I think it takes me a second to figure something out, but hey, I'm a method actor. I could go there.
That's hilarious. This is episode 9. Way to get things started. What is episode 9 about?
No. I'm not saying what episode it is this episode, just in case, because Billy threw me under the bus with one episode. I'm going to dub the right number, and I didn't get dubbed.
I'm going to dub 9 right there, so people thought you said 9 when it's going to be 10, and I'll redub everything. So, yes, it's... Anyways, what movie are we watching? What movie did we watch?
Insidious. We're doing Insidious 1 and 2, so look out for the second one after this one drops. Oh, this one's exciting because this is a big highlight of PG-13 horror, I feel, guys, gals, non-binary pals.
Why? Why is that, Lil?
I think it's because it takes from so many other horror movies, Bill. But at the same time, it's headed by a very effective filmmaker.
See, I feel like this was the genre set sail that made all the haunted house horror movies become what it is. It was the pioneer of new things. So when we watch this movie, there are some things that they did well, some of the things they tried and they never tried again in the series. But we'll talk all about that in a second. One of the first things that they did do right, at least for me, was the intro, the title card, and the credits.
Yes. So we sink into a young boy sleeping in his bed, and all of a sudden a shot of this creepy lady with a candle hiding in the darkness. And then right from that, we go into this gorgeous title sequence that is very, very Poltergeist-esque. Some of them are a little cheesy, but at the same time, I love the feel. I love the way it's shot. I love the pictures they used.
The font, the violins, everything about that intro was so
32
good.
violins, I believe. 32, I believe it was, in correlation to do the violin music in this film. And it's just iconic, in my opinion. It really is iconic. I adore violins to begin with, and just to have it used effectively in a horror film like this, I adore every second of it.
Violins are like the heartstrings of like instruments. If anything, I
Mhm.
get pure emotions when I hear some stuff out of that, especially John
Well,
Williams scores, to say the
mhm.
least.
Mhm.
But anyways, the next thing is the title credits where they're listing off the cast. It feels like a
Yes.
Where's Waldo for me at least. Like, where's that shadow? Oh, it's gonna
Yeah.
move. Oh,
It
I'm
is.
excited. Oh
Yep.
boy.
And
Not
it so is, and it sets the tone perfectly.
and you know what's messed up? I have to tell
What's
you
that?
this.
What's that?
I went to Purdue University with my uncle who was there. It was
Okay.
the weekend. I got to stay a night on a college campus, and I was only like a freshman in high school. I was so excited. I was like,
Nice.
what parties are we gonna get into tonight?" And they're like,
Right?
"None. We're going to see this movie." And a bunch of us went and we saw Insidious. I, being the dum dum I am, I thought I turned
Mhm.
down my phone. I turned it up, and my phone didn't do the da-da-da-da-da-da. No, it wasn't that annoying ass ringtone. For some reason, I made it wind and chimes. So every time something scary goes to happen, you heard wind and chimes. And by at the end of this movie, somebody said, "Man, this movie would have been great if they would stop doing that wind and chime bullshit. That let me know a jump scare was coming." I was like, "Yeah, that is stupid." And I checked my phone, like because in the theater I was trying to mute it, it wouldn't let me, and like it was one of those LG neons, the flip phone. Like I couldn't get this shit out because there's no brightness control or whatever. So I just let it ride, and then I made sure I mute it. So when like the guys see me texting and they would like hear alerts, they wouldn't hear that. It would be on vibrate or some dumb shit. Um,
Billy, you ruined the movie for a whole theater.
I did. It was awful, and I feel so sorry for them. But the thing is, the movie was
No,
still great.
it
Uh,
is. Oh my god. I got so much hate for loving this movie when it came out. Like, Billy has a picture, or I can resend him the picture. I made a picture of the main villain of this film with me in it. Like, I'm not perfect with Photoshop, but I did my best because I adored this film when it came out. And I got so much hate from the hardcore horror community for loving this film because automatically when something's rated PG-13 you're going to have hardcore horror haters that hate on you for liking it. And I just was like that this movie was kind of one of those films that kind of had me sink into my shell with my opinions a little bit because I've got so much harsh feedback on this film, though I adored it when it came out. And I still rewatching this film, I adore it again. I think it's super effective for what it is, even though I feel like it's kind of the reason we got some crappy ones after in the not in the franchise itself, but in the sense that we had some copycats and they wanted to be this film and they were definitely not this film because nobody can really copy James Wan on it, obviously.
so speaking of James Wan, this
Hmm.
movie kind of set sail for some of the biggest and best horror tropes out there.
Yes.
Um, this started James Wan's rejuvenation, where he did all the Conjuring movies after. And
Hmm.
when it comes to haunted house horror, a lot of mimics couldn't really capture the magic that this one did. Thankfully,
Not
his
even close.
Conjuring series, when he's at the helm of a movie for the Conjuring, it's a great ride. Conjuring 1 and 2
Hmm.
is probably the top two, in my opinion. When he's
Yes.
taking the back seat, that's where it feels like he made a cookie cutter and everybody's taking that cookie cutter and is trying to implement it, but there's substance missing, so it doesn't feel as
Yep.
good as his. Um,
It's
Go ahead.
because nobody can pull off the colors he can. Nobody can pull off the shots he can. And actually, that's. Let me rephrase that. They can pull off these shots. They can pull off these colors. They just didn't bother to teach themselves these techniques and effectively enough the way he did. You know, I'm not sure where he studied film, but wherever he studied film and wherever he got his inspiration from, it really shines through from the
Well,
colors to the feel.
I feel like through and through, he's a hardcore horror fan because he did
Oh, yeah.
Saul, he did Dead Silence, he did a lot of great films, in my opinion. A lot of people hate Dead Silence,
Hmm.
but he is ambitious and is willing to do things people are scared of doing. Uh,
Agreed. I mean,
recent
look at Saul.
Recently, I feel like HP Lovecraft movies have been bargain bin movies lately. We did get that
Yeah.
Lovecraft series on HBO Max that I think was a one and done series.
Yeah.
Uh,
I did enjoy Underwater, even though that was not advertised as HP Lovecraft. It is very.
Color Out of Space, which was the Nick Cage movie that went directly
Mhm.
to streaming and directly to like DVD or DVD and VHS. When have we got a
Mhm.
VHS direct? God, I'm so stupid. Blu-ray. Sorry. Anyways,
Oh.
to hammer the point home. The last big thing I think H.P. Lovecraft has
That-
had his hands on was Reanimator and stuff like that. Um,
Mhm.
James
Mhm.
Wan
True.
really, really wants to do a Cthulhu movie.
Oh, that excites
That
me.
really excites me. I love playing the Arkham games, which uses H.P. Lovecraft's monsters and all that. So I have big leather-bound books right now. I'm reading Dracula. Uh,
Nice.
I love the Barnes and Noble series. That's the probably the only
Mhm.
way you can get books at this caliber anymore. I would
Yeah.
carry around my H.P. Lovecraft. It was a huge, dense, leather-bound book of the complete collections, just because I love the lore, the monsters, and the writing. And
Yes.
he's been getting a lot of flack. H.P. Lovecraft's name because of all the things that were happening at his generation that we will not
I was just
discuss.
about to say that. Well, if you look at the original story of the Wendigo, the language used in that story is not language we can use anymore. Okay, and people discredit the original story of the Wendigo as trash just because of some of the language used.
Well,
Um,
that's why I'm kind of shocked. So, have you ever read Dracula or anything Bram Stoker has done?
I have never read anything Bram Stoker. I'm sorry. Vampires aren't my favorite. Forgive me.
This is more psychological based. Like,
Okay.
I didn't know what I was getting myself into when I was going to start reading this. It was nothing but letters, and it
Okay.
feels really, really formal instead of
Okay.
like writing like Edgar Allan Poe or like it
I like
if
that though, through the eyes of letters
yeah,
kind of thing.
but it feels like something that didn't come out ages ago. It felt like it could have came out.
Mhm.
It felt like it could have been written today if some edgy guy was like, "What is gothic enough?" Like I feel like you could write a
Yeah.
story like this today.
Hmm.
And there's only a few times where I'm like the wording's weird because they use queer and peculiar as substance like that still.
Well,
But
I
the
actually like as a queer person and considers themselves queer. I like the uses of the word queer, because it's a fun word. It's not a hateful word. It's just like it's kind of like curious or different. It's not like with negative condensation normally.
I didn't.
I don't.
I didn't save the page because I'm not a child anymore. But like, I swear, it's like one of the writings was, "I do not mean to come off queer," but like they were
Well, that
talking.
I mean,
They were
it's from its time,
well.
you
They
know.
were talking about this. Man, we're gonna have to do a Dracula pod because Dracula stories and
Okay.
movies. That's
Okay.
my shit right. I mean, look at it. Look at it. Oh, look at
Oh,
me.
is that Monster Squad?
Oh no, it's Universal Horror. But I
Okay, that
got.
works too.
eh,
That works too.
I'm kind of bummed they're missing Wolfman, but like honestly, like
Okay.
this
I
is
mean,
my shit right now, and I got you
okay.
a gift, and the hint is it's one of these collections of movies
Sir,
that should be
you
coming
didn't
in
need to get me
tomorrow.
anything.
That should
You
be
didn't need to get me
well.
anything.
Now we're definitely gonna have to do a pod on one of those movies, and who knows? I might announce it sometime later today. Uh so we talked to let's go
It's
back. I know,
exciting.
let's go back to where we left off. We talked about
Okay, so
so James
we
Wan
we
did
just got in through the intro, so yes, let's get our booties a rolling.
let's talk about the family. We got
Okay.
Dalton,
Yes,
we
we got
got
Dalton.
the useless brother, we got
The-
the baby that gets in so many conundrums. Like, honest to God, after the first movie, like, we'll talk about the second movie, why do you
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
leaving your baby in places?
I know. I know. I know.
Uh,
But go on, the rest of our cast, Patrick Wilson as our dad.
Patrick
Um,
Wilson. What was his name? His last name's Lambert.
Josh.
Josh. All right.
Hmm.
We got Specs. We got Elise. We got.
Yeah, oh, you mean Lilith? And then what was the other guy's name?
I, okay. The fat bumbling idiot's me, and the dude that's nerdy with glasses is Lilith.
I mean,
I see it more
I
as a
mean,
Zach
if the
Baggins.
shoe fits,
If the
I
shoe fits.
swear to God, me and Billy throw off of each other just like these two do. And rewatching this, I was like, oh my God, this is me and Billy. I'm like on the floor laughing so hard because this is hilarious.
So I love Ghost Adventures. I saw Aaron and Zach. Aaron is the big lumbering dude that gets in himself in
Yeah.
situations, and Specs is all hyped up and he knows all these facts and he thinks he's confident, but he's actually kind of like nerdy and weak. That's how I see Zach.
True. True.
We also have, I think her name's Renee, and
His
the-
wife, Renee.
Yep. Oh,
And then we have his mother.
mother
too.
Lorraine.
Lorraine, his mother, are our main cast in this film. Tongue, thank you.
So
Um,
I think we
this is, as most of our episodes, this is not going to be spoiler free, though I think you can still enjoy this film even if you go in with these spoilers, though the ending is kind of a surprise, and I do enjoy that one.
And notice how we're respecting the names in this movie a lot more than other films. It's because I think a lot of those characters were written well and they weren't dumbed
And then,
down.
of course, Elise, our dear Elise.
Hero of the story, the probably the best written and the most undeserved ending to this movie, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. But
Yep.
Renee, the mother, she is the catalyst for, I would say, the beginning portion of the movie. And not to knock Dalton or Josh, but I don't know why, and this is where there's a lot of things that this movie does great, and there's a lot of things where this movie confuses me. The goal is to get Dalton's body and come back to Earth, right?
Yes.
What's the deal with messing with Renee all the time? Like, are the ghosts just dicks and they're like, oh man, I'm so bored. When this kid's gonna fall? You know what? I'm gonna just mess with his mom. I'm just gonna like bully her, and then like they go and like so the dude's walking outside, walking back and forth, and then boom, he's jump scare in the bedroom, and then he dives on her, and he comes back time and time again. And when we get to that one scene, he is the most gross. And I feel like the only reason why he would want Dalton's body is for unholy things with his mom.
Oh, 110. Well, there's many things about that.
And was he the-
Especially when it comes to near the end with his realm, it kind of proves that he's kind of a perv.
Was he the same guy that was holding the baby too?
No.
Okay,
The
good.
one after the baby is a different spirit.
Thank the Lord, because that guy, if he's dead and is haunting your house, I would be like, no, I'm getting out of here.
Yeah. But yeah, coming into the beginning of the film, we get tension with the family. They have moved into a new home. We don't know why. The mother's getting the house together. She wakes up early, trying not to wake up the baby. Dalton wakes up. He expresses that he's not a huge fan of his room. She comforts him, and they're wearing matching PJs in the film, so you know they are very close. And they're going through pictures, and she explains, "This is me as a little girl," and he's like, "Oh, you're old. You must be 21 by now." And she laughs and she says, "I wish." And he's like, "Where's pictures of daddy as a kid?" And she's like, "Well, daddy's not too good with pictures." And then baby cries, and we go into the chaos of real life, of family life. And Patrick Wilson and Renee, you can see there's some tension there. So we're not sure where that tension is coming
Oh,
from.
I
as of
can
yet.
tell you where that tension is coming from. As a father of two, trying to handle situations like that, you got work, I have school as well. It's a juggle. And then you got this lady who's like, hey, let's do a podcast tonight. And it's like, come on. Like, Like, I have a work life.
I'm the one that came to me with this idea, Mr. Ability. Yeah, throw it on me.
You're the reason why my relationship's in shambles. You see me burst into tears. I have a mental breakdown on this pod. It's over. We're done. I'm just kidding. No, there's a lot of stress and a lot of issues going on, and he's a teacher, right? And you see the house that they just moved to. What does she do? She teaches piano. Where are they getting this money from? This is California too. I see palm trees there. There's no way
their house is huge. Like for just a middle class family, like on a teacher's salary. It is a huge house. I don't know if he came from money because his mother's house is fairly huge too. So single mother.
I explained that one too, and she has an even nicer house than anybody.
Well, they explain that it's a house that's been in the family for years, so I'm assuming he comes from money, and that could come into play. So that's how I kind of like correlate that, I suppose.
I don't know. They kind of lost credibility once we started talking about that. I'm losing check marks here. I'm scribbling it.
Oh my god!
Just kidding.
You're a hot mess. You're a hot mess.
Anyways,
yes, we learned soon enough that after Dad leaves for work and he has a PTA meeting, so Mom has to get the kids to work, to school, and from school, and she's playing piano. Very pretty song that she has written. And from the start, she starts basically getting played with by this spirit or spirits or whatever the heck it is. And it usually comes in the form of them messing with the baby first and then the mom reacting, but she gets the brunt of it because she tries to come in between the whatever's trying to happen that we don't know of yet. And you kind of start to see the descent of the mother's deterioration of her mental state. Though, when Dad gets home, though he gets home late, he's a great guy. He's great to his kids. He brings home a gift for his boys. When the bedroom scene happens at the end of the day, you can tell there is love there. He cares about her. But the first viewing I saw this, I felt he was cheating on her. I honestly did. Though he seemed like a guy that loved his wife. There was something there that made me feel like he was cheating.
First, a guy's exhausted. He has a family and he's hardworking. And the first thing they go to is he's just tired. He just wants to go to bed. Are you cheating? He's cheating. He must be. God, can we just relax and not talk? Jeez. I'm just kidding.
I get. No, you're not.
I'm not at all. I have to say that. I have to say that for the women audience. But honestly, guys, I think you guys get me. Like, man. Anyways.
Okay. But yes.
But this is how you know he truly cares, because my wife has a bigger set of balls than I do. Her position in bed is closer to the door than mine, and if our alarms would go off in the middle of the night, bitch, I'm not getting up. I'm like, you got this. You got this. But the thing is, he jumps out of bed. You hear the ring, 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 ring. The door's wide open. He's checking. And the thing is,
banging on the front door.
This comes in play later on in the movie.
And later on in the franchise.
That's what I probably meant to say. And
yeah,
that's where it ticks me off. We're going to talk about this more, but really, time travel.
There is a time travel element here, but I think it's not necessarily time travel as it is
not here.
The absence of
the second movie. Like, you get lore here. You get stuff started. The next movie, it feels like homages to other things. And the thing is it's one thing if they do it for this like series. They only do it for that movie because 3 and 4 didn't deal with any of it. And one, it's because they didn't want to set up the lore of the family. They did not want to go like the depth of this after this. This is like you're jumping into a 3-foot pool. The next movie's deep. You're going into everybody's origins, and it feels like a fun movie. And we're going to get to that a couple episodes in. But when you go to 3 and 4, they're still good. horror
They're great
movies.
films. Like this franchise is a solid franchise, and I am running to the theater when the new one comes out because they're retouching on the family
But
again.
like I said, if James Wan's fingerprints aren't touching it in some way, shape, or form, it
Mhm.
kind of feels like you're missing an ingredient. And
Yes. And like I hate like even it's not just this franchise. Any franchise that starts with an iconic filmmaker and then they hand it over to a friend or somebody else that they trust, even though it's a great film, it's not the same because they can't mimic their style. And even if they did, it wouldn't be the same.
so I was going to say that, but that
Mhm.
is a controversial opinion and take.
I don't think I don't think that's controversial.
I 110% do, especially if you're
Okay.
Star Wars, because the best Star Wars movie is Empire Strikes Back, and that wasn't even directed by George Lucas. It was directed by his friend, and he had some creative control to that. Uh,
I don't have a say in this because I'm not a big Star Wars fan, but I will have to say my favorite is Episode One. Just saying.
Ridley Scott did Alien Part 1. James Cameron did
Mhm.
Aliens, which is probably my
Yes,
favorite of the series.
I agree. I prefer the second over the first.
So Wes Craven did great with Scream 1. Honestly, my next favorite in that series is Scream. It's 5, but they just call it Scream, and it's because it's done well, handled beautifully, so people
I
can
hate that
hand.
they did that and just did Scream instead of Scream 5. That was kind of like Scream Stick, you know? It was like they had just a single number after the title. And like when they tried to do just Scream, like it kind of was pushing the reinventing of it a little bit. Though I respect it at the same time. I wish it was just like Scream
Well,
5.
they were trying to do what Halloween was doing, just that
Yeah.
bandwagon, and that was the play on the requel train or
Mm,
whatever.
mm. Well, Scream, I'm actually liking the direction Scream's going, though. I miss my one and true and my real final girl, Sydney Prescott.
Yep.
She is my girl.
But those are the movies I list. You're not wrong,
Yeah.
especially like with horror.
Hmm.
There's only a few movies I can say done it justice, like Nightmare on Elm Street with Dream Warriors,
Hmm.
uh, Friday the 13th with the final chapter. There's individual movies. Nobody can carry the
You mean Jason
franchise.
X, Billy? You mean
Jason
Jason X?
Jason
Because
X.
that's the best one in the franchise,
It's
right?
it's
Right?
it's my
Right?
third favorite. I'll give you
You
that.
mean first favorite? First favorite? First favorite?
The final
Second?
chapter
I need
has
people for my army, okay? I need
Daniel
people for my Jason X
Glover
army.
dancing.
Come on, Andrew, come in here for me. Jason X all the way, baby.
I thought I'm happy you said in here for me. I thought you were gonna say something else. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna have to edit that part out. Anyways, anyways,
Anyways,
anyways.
through the film.
When the alarm goes off, that
D.
was the straw that broke the donkey's back. They're like, you know what? Next day we'll move out, and they do. They
Yeah, like, and that is a big thing for Josh or Patrick Wilson, the husband, to do. I think you would agree with me with that, Billy. For them to just move into this new house, they move into another house.
Yeah.
That right there proved to me that this man loves his
and
family.
it was kind of early in the film too. Like I think it was
It
within the
is.
first 30 minutes that they did this. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, wow." So there's one thing they kind of debunked with the horror trope. Because
Mhm.
if most horror movies did that, like A Haunting in Connecticut, like that movie
Okay.
would have been nothing. So this movie has challenged that and then expanded upon it, and it will tell you why later. But
Oh yeah.
this is where jump scares after jump scares after jump scares started happening, and the
Okay.
sound mixing for me kind of fell off. But let's talk about one of the first jump scares with the little boy.
Okay.
I like when she was going around picking up things around the house, and she walks
Yes.
through the door and standing right there. And you know what sucks? I'm gonna make it suck for you guys too, because I can't have like my Kool-Aid tainted without tainting yours. Um, that little boy is actually like a 30-year-old man. I know. And later
They've
on,
done that a couple times in films, though.
well,
It's like Seed of Chucky. They did that.
even with the jumping out of the closet scene, after somebody told me that was a 30-year-old man, seeing the face and the heavy applied makeup, I'm like, damn it. I like it.
Oh, okay. Never. I thought you were saying they were a double for the child.
No, it was the child. And
Okay,
him like
okay.
doing that little jig. I thought like a child. I was like, man, like this is like hilarious. Like it's just a little kid dancing. Like the whole thing. But now knowing it's a 35-year-old man, and that's how the behind the scenes is telling you. But now I'm seeing it as a 35-year-old man. I'm like, this is creepy as fuck.
Yeah, like this film is thoroughly creepy. Like this film is one of those films that'll make you keep your lights on at night if you still get affected by horror films like that. Me, I'm pretty steel clad at this point, but this I still feel the feels of this film. It's there, and like as I said, like the tone of this film and the colors and even the acting for a film that was done, and I believe like this was done in like weeks, like a matter of weeks. This was filmed, I believe 6 weeks in total, if I'm not mistaken, and it's just so effective. Like I enjoy we're going to the point where we have moved into the mother-in-law's house. Are we there yet?
Not
Is there
yet,
anything? Okay.
because they have a priest come over. This is
Yes,
starting to
they
get
do.
out of hand.
Mm-hmm.
Josh completely forgot about his past, his history, and everything that's going on with that.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
Mom comes
So
in.
he's a big skeptic right now. Like he respects his wife's breakdown as he sees it, essentially, and he's not like committing her by any means. And he feels like he's doing his best, but he does not believe there's anything spiritual going on here.
Well, Mom comes in, basically pulls pictures, and was like, "Hey, this is like we've been through this before." And then as she's talking, this is what kind of took me out of the movie was the Darth Maul jump scare.
Okay.
And the main reason why is it's
so good though.
it's Darth Maul though.
I know it's Darth Maul, but like for now it's not good. Though I still enjoy it watching it now, but for when this movie came out, I remember thoroughly being terrified by that scene and not seeing it coming. Whatever the heck it was, I jumped. Okay, I jumped.
For me, it's the sound. If we watch this movie on mute, that would do nothing to me. If we played it with the sound, because I said earlier the sound mixing sucks, and that's because I'd be watching it and trying to listen to like, this is volume 12 and this is how they talk. Hey Josh, what the fuck are you doing? And then the jump scare happens and there's like the violins going hee, like screaming as loud as, man, I shouldn't have done that. People are gonna clip that. I look so stupid. Damn it.
Clip that.
Damn
Please,
it.
I beg you.
Anyways,
But no, I read somewhere where James Wan said that he wanted to step away from the traditional like boom trope when it comes to a jump scare. So his way of getting around that was like creating tension with like a disillusion in sound. So opposed to just using one violin, he used 37 or 36 or however it was. And it was supposed to like, opposed to being like a crisp, clear sound, it was supposed to kind of add to the annoyance and tension of the scene.
the annoyance
The
annoyance is for me, like I'm at volume 12 trying to listen to the voices, and then you have the violins at volume 50. It's mix the sound better, because I could still jump at like a 25 and 12 and it's not as annoying. But like I'm trying to watch this movie and people have other rooms, so they don't want to hear my shit.
I agree too, because like the first horror movie I ever took my nephew to see in theater was The Gallows, and I adore that film. He still adores that film. But I taught him that night the best way to when he's scared in a film and he thinks something's going to happen, put his hands over his ears and he won't jump. He still implores this to this day. He's 16 now. He still does it.
I'm happy you brought that up, because The Gallows is such an underrated movie.
Oh, I own it. I bought it at a gas station, Billy. That's how underrated this is. At a 7-Eleven, I bought this film.
I got it at a disc replay fairly cheap, but when people were leaving, like people would leave this movie, they would buy tickets. I worked at a movie theater. They bought tickets and they would ask for a refund. And if the movie hasn't played over this much time, and we were allowed to give them a refund, but I would always like I had to ask, you're like the fifth person, why are you leaving? And it wasn't because of how bad it was. It's just way too scary.
It's one of the highlights of found footage horror, and that's not something to take lightly. That coming out of my mouth, because that's my subgenre. I feel like that's a highlight in found
No,
footage. The sequel, however, I'm not a huge fan. I've gotten a
they
little
took
hate
away the
for
found
not
footage
liking it.
aspect, right?
They took away the found footage, so they lost me at that, and I gave it a chance. As soon as it hit running, I rented it from Redbox, and that was my reaction. I was just like,
That's awful. Not to mention,
I like the ending, but no, just no. That's all I have to say.
by the time I got around to seeing that movie, it was at a small auditorium, and
Mhm.
I swear up and down my movie theater's haunted. But I was at least there was still a good crowd amount of people. I even had to bring friends to see this movie because there's a few movies that I would refuse to see alone. And
Uh-huh.
the first movie I've ever seen alone at that movie theater, somebody walked in, sat behind me. There's no exits away, and there's only one way to walk through to get in.
Okay.
It was Ex Machina. There's a lot of weird boob naked scenes, and I'm like, it's just me and this other dude sitting behind me. It felt weird. The movie was done, and I stood up, stretched. I was gonna say like a 2-bit comment. I'm a teenager. I was like, oh yikes, and nobody was there.
I'm out. I'm out. Peace out. Running out the exit. I'm not even going.
Late
to the
at
lobby.
night, that
Nope,
freaked
nope,
me
nope,
out.
nope,
It was
nope.
one in the smaller auditoriums that was deemed haunted, and I didn't really believe that stuff. That was the first experience. I did Projection Crew, and Projection Crew, you're not allowed to turn on the lights up there. If you are, it's because usually you messed up and you're switching a movie really fast, and you can't leave the lights on. It would affect the way the projections are with the other auditoriums because it's just one big
Nope.
dark hallway with all these
Nope.
films going. And you have this little dial volume thing.
Mm.
As I'm doing a switch, I was close to the end. I think it was like an 8 or 9 o'clock switch at the very end of the night. I go up there, and I swear I heard, "Hey." I quickly did. I don't even think I did it as properly as I should have. But I was like, "Screw it!" Like sprinted out of that. That scared
Nope.
the crap out of me. And the thing,
Go ahead.
and the thing was, I only had one other experience. It was Boogeyman. Went and saw that alone at one of the smaller auditoriums. But the thing was, is the vibe of that scary auditorium was way scarier than Boogeyman was throughout the whole movie. And that's all I'm gonna say.
Go watch our episode. Billy has many opinions.
Facts.
But no.
I have so many facts.
No.
I'm just.
I love how your name's Billy D. Emphasis on the D. Any hoozles. I think that the only theater experience where I felt thoroughly terrified because I was by myself was Saw 2. It was something just about the tone of that film and nobody else being there, seeing me living in a resort town that happens like during the wintertime a lot. And it's awesome. But when you're seeing a horror film sometimes, and I was younger at this point, so I wasn't as bulletproof. And just seeing Saw 2 by myself in a dark theater, not knowing if anybody's like coming in behind me is just like, I was genuinely terrified for my safety in that theater.
It's the worst, isn't it?
It is. It is. It's like it's because like you're in the dark except for the light coming off the screen, and it's like people can come in silently in those theaters behind you, and like the tension's already building from the film, and then God only knows. God only knows.
So, correct me if I'm wrong. They don't actually go to Grandma's house. Only the kids go in the first one.
No, they go. They all go. That's where they move into. grandmas, because when they up and move from this house, they're still trying to sell the one they just moved into, so they move into grandma's because that's where one of my favorite scenes happens, and it's not even a horror scene.
Okay. There's a scene. I don't think they moved out yet.
Okay.
Where Elise and Specs and all them come in.
Yeah, that I believe is right after the priest and the priest breakdown because he's like, okay, if it's like he gives her like the option to just have her experience this.
The f-
After
the
yeah.
picture scene.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
got me, and I don't think it used that much sound because it just puke, and then you heard a
Mhm.
boom, and then so
Mhm.
they're there like looking like this, and then the next one click, and then it goes
Yeah.
bum bum bum, and
Elise
they're
isn't even there
smiling.
yet because Specs and the other guy, forgive me for forgetting his name, but they're going through the house trying to see if it's worthy of Elise coming over because that's was Elise's process. If everybody that called she goes to, it's gonna be silly. So like it gets to the point with this scene where he comes out and he's like Billy comes out and he's like, oh, I'm sorry. The one guy comes out
Tucker,
and
yeah,
he's like, oh, call her. Well, yeah, call her
yeah, go.
now.
So she gets there.
Hmm.
This is where the foundation's great, but the columns that they're trying to
Oh,
support this movie on kind of cracks, and it shows. The in between is like, I would say the in between is better than the further, because the further means they're at a long ways out. The way I would say the in between is they hop back and forth because it would explain the ghost apparitions and shit. It would
yeah,
explain why they're doing all this stuff. Not to mention Dalton was in a coma for 3 months. At
yes,
least that's how
yes.
it
We kind
feels.
of skipped that little piece of it thing in the beginning of this. Like the reason why they move out and all this paranormal normal activity starts happening is Dalton falls. He's fine. They wake up one morning. He won't wake up for school. He's been in a coma for 3 months. So this is how this all starts, and he's still in a coma at this point.
He's taking as
Um,
sweet as whoever's trying to possess him or what's going on. They're taking their sweet time to do it
oh yeah,
because
and we don't know why. We don't know why
so
he's
we could
just like.
speculate the demon shadow was that points that
Ooh.
that's the guardian of the
Oh,
body.
that scene where you see the demon just point with his finger to Dalton, that is so effective to
Scary.
me. Oh my God, just the claw. The claw. I can't. He's like,
That was my
mm,
favorite
mm.
shadow scene until Conjuring 2 came out. That's how good that
Okay.
scene was.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. That's okay.
Coma takes forever.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Compared to Josh's, like what happened
Yeah.
to him, that was
Mm-hmm.
almost immediate. I'm like, the rules of that is very, very
Mm-hmm.
weird.
It's different. It's different because the way I base how this all works is because after Elise gets there, she goes through, she sees something in Dalton's bedroom hovering over Dalton, and the way her process is she speaks and Specs draws. And she's explaining what's there, and it's this red-faced demon, basically Darth Maul, as Billy said. But it's more terrifying as you're watching it. And she basically is explaining to the mom and dad that we need to. He's stuck in this place called the Further. He's a traveler, and when he sleeps, he travels in his dreams. He goes and he got trusting and went too far into the Further, and now he's stuck there because a demon has latched onto him and wants to take his body for his own.
Um, yes. And then immediately we hop into the seance.
Well, yeah, well, not necessarily because Patrick Wilson kicks her out
Oh, that's
originally.
right.
Because he's like, yeah, okay, thank you, it'll be $20. I now thanks for the spook fest. We went through the show, just please get out. And he has a little bit of a breakdown, kicks them all out, and Elise is like, I understand. He goes to Dalton's bedroom, he sees the drawings Dalton did when he was awake. and it says, when I dream, last night I saw myself sleep and I was flying, and he gets that, oh, this is really happening. This isn't just something this weird lady's coming into my house and trying to get money out of me. So that's what leads into our seance scene.
My things is like there's so many conveniences like in this movie. Like there was a nurse helping out Dalton, and
Yeah,
like she's like, you want me to change the sheets,
yeah.
and the mom's like, no, I got it, and then she walks away. If she lifted up the sheets and saw that big hand blood print, like child services would
I
probably be.
personally, as a mom, I would have screamed for the nurse. I would have been like, like something. If I saw my child bleeding and there was a nurse right down the room, I would be screaming for that nurse. I wouldn't just be looking at it like,
Honestly, it's just so many
But
conveniences that are happening right now, but then they add the inconvenience of the seance. I am not 100% what the point of the seance was, because they never implemented the gas mask stuff again. They never, and it's just Specs writing down as Elise is to
they're
the
trying to
other.
find where Dalton is in the further. And at this point, Patrick Wilson, aka Josh, doesn't know that he's a traveler as well. They haven't reminded him of his past yet. So this is where Elisa's way of trying to guide Dalton back into his body without risking anybody else getting hurt, because she realized the severity of this demon. It's not just your typical astral spirit. This thing is a red-tailed devil, and it is coming for their child. So she tries to spiritually go in and find him, which includes a gas mask for some reason. Though I do adore this scene. I love the way it
It's
looks. It's thoroughly
it's
terrifying.
beautiful,
Um,
but then
it's
there's
just
when they
pointless.
yeah, when the scene breaks down, like Dalton hits his hand on the table, everything like goes this wayward. The demon comes out of nowhere just to get his like cop feeling the mom. My thing is, if you were watching it, it's slow, she's screaming, she's pinned up against the wall. Josh is just watching. Like, what are you doing, my guy? That's your
Yeah,
wife. I know he's a
yeah.
ghost, but hop in there.
Well, see, that's the thing. It's brought up earlier that Josh is an avoider. He likes to avoid. Instead of diving into the problem and confronting it, he avoids the problem until it goes away. So it's established early on that even though Josh is a really cool guy, he's a loving father and a good husband, he has his flaws and he also has his scars. Because meanwhile, he's been staying late at his office because he's not sleeping either, because he has these weird dreams of the further. He doesn't know that it's the further yet, but like he's like, that's why I thought he was cheating. Keeps staying late at work. And it's just, there's a lot of denial in Josh's end. And after this scene, after Elise tries to get him, and Dalton hits his hand on the table, basically everybody goes this way, and the whole room explodes. All the cameras are getting going, flashing, 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 and it's really the turning point where Elise has to go to Josh and be like, "Hey, my dude, you go ahead, Billy. Do you have any more about that scene you want to discuss before I go to that?"
Oh no, I keep yawning, so I keep muting my mic.
No, you're good. You're good. I just wanted to make sure I didn't skip ahead. But after that, that's when Elise basically says, Josh, when you were a young boy, you were haunted by this thing, and we had to make you forget that you were a walker, or I forget the term. I'm sorry. But we need you to do this. And he's like, I can't do this, I don't do that. And it's a conversation, but they convince him with the pictures his mother brings and everything. And it's where they basically realize it's up to Josh now to go into this further and get his son out. But can we mention an honorable mention of a scene that I adore that we kind of skipped over a little bit?
Go for it.
There's a scene when they first move into the mother-in-law's house with the mother-in-law and the wife. And the wife is done at this point. You're feeling for her. Nobody's believing her, really, in a certain sense. And she's apologizing to the mother-in-law for doing this to her and being in her house and inconveniencing her. And her mother-in-law says to her that nobody knows what you're going through. Nobody knows what you're experiencing. You do what you need to do to get through this, and I'm here for you. And in that scene alone, she won one of the best mother-in-law awards in all of cinema. But going back in, I just had an honorable mention with that scene because I do adore that
Are
scene.
we
Um,
ready for Josh to go into the further?
oh, we're going into the further. I love the further. It's so
S- So
pretty. No,
this
it's so terrifying, actually.
this is where it gets weird because Elise
It
kind
does.
of guides him in a hypnotic way. Like, Josh, you
Yeah.
got this. And he's like, man, this isn't working. And the next second, he's instantly in the further. Like,
Yes.
it took Dalton how long to do this? It took him how long for him to do it originally? And he
Mhm.
just got it like it's riding a bike.
Because like it's the ticking of the thing. I forget what those are things are called, but it's the ticking, and then he like it goes into a scene where he's like, "See, I told you I can't do this," and he's there, and he sees himself sitting there, and Elise talking to him. So he's there. He's in the further, and we know we're in the further because it's very blue, it's very dim, it's dead, it's void of life. And he realizes, okay, he's listening to Elise's voice. She's guiding him. He
Without the
goes
gas
in.
mask, I'm going to remind you.
Oh yes, gas mask doesn't come back into play, which should come back into play, but it doesn't. Yeah, and so he goes out the front door of his home into
So
the further.
we did this podcast one time before, and
We did.
it's saying it's recording perfectly. I had got a second monitor, so we don't have this issue anymore. But
Hmm.
it gave me more time to reflect. The second movie deals with time travel, and you see time
It
travel
does.
Josh go
Yes.
to his childhood years,
Hmm.
which was weird. Why doesn't time travel Josh go to here? I know it's probably because they didn't think about writing it this way, but watch this.
Hmm.
Time travel Josh goes into Josh that's just now entering. Bro, you want
It's
to
true.
avoid
It's
like 2 weeks, almost a month work of like trying to get back to your body? And he's like, I have issues going back to my body. You trust me, it's the
Yeah.
worst. And it's
Yeah.
like time travel in here is like really really weird, and it kind of messes this whole thing up. Not to mention we're getting this future movie, which I love. This cast works amazingly, especially in the second one. The
Oh yes.
performances are amazing. I would love to
Oh,
see them again. But
the family aspect works very well in this film.
what would be cool is if they set up the third movie, if they were planning. I know they probably weren't planning on doing this movie at all, but
I doubt
older
it.
Josh comes back like, guys, we messed up. So there's like this huge time travel paradox. There's now two
Yeah.
future Joshes, and then like there's this scared little boy in the corner, like, what are you guys doing? And they're like, who are you? And he's like, I'm
Yeah.
Josh. And they're like, oh my gosh, little Josh. Like, so there's so many Joshes now, and I'm not joshing
Yeah.
you. This is a Josh
Well,
exception right here.
yeah, but this does not happen until the second film, Billy. We know you're bitter about it. But can we wait for the second film? No, I'm just
I
playing.
guess we have to because
No,
right.
because there's not really time travel in this one necessarily.
But how many
Um,
people that are cognitive, like, can tell you things and will do things, and like they're there living the thing with you. But there's these weird ghosts that like to relive their past, and like you're watching them.
yes.
Now I love these
Oh,
scenes. These scenes
the
are
living room
beautiful.
scene with the ghost family with the daughter that murdered her family. Oh my gosh, like the makeup that's done is like old school, terrifying, spiritual, and it's like we go through this whole like scene of like whistling and you don't know where it's coming from. Patrick Wilson, or Josh goes into the living room and he sees this family sitting, this father sitting there, and when he looks away, you hear a whistle and you see the father whistling when he looks away, and it's just so eerie and so effective. And like it goes through the scene of how you see the daughter like basically murdered the family with a shotgun, and it's just so crazy and it's so good.
Are we gonna skip any ghosts before we get to the red door?
That's up to you.
I don't know what else there is. It's been a hot
I
minute.
think in this one, that's the main thing we get in the further in the first film is this family that we see. And then we get past this family, we get to the red
Red
door.
door, the red demon
Um
that chained up Dalton. Like you see
yes.
him sharpening his fingers. He's
Yes.
intimidating as heck.
Mhm.
He gets to Dalton and tries to unchain him, and this is what he tells Dalton: "It's not real." What?
I didn't I
He says this to Dalton. I'm like, Dad, I've been chained here for 3 months and it's not real. Like, that's the first thing I'd say. I'd be like, I've been going through
no.
all this pain and misery and it's not real.
I mean, it's a little real at this point, Dad. I've been chained up for how many
Yeah.
months?
So I get he's
But
probably trying to
no.
calm him, but that's all he said was it's not real. I had to write that down
Yeah.
because I'm like, this is kind of bullshit. What?
Denial is heavy in this, Dad. Denial is heavy.
Not to.
But I'm just. Go ahead.
But the thing is as soon as he says that, we get the cringiest scene of the movie, in my opinion. Have you guys seen Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny? There's a scene where, like, I'm the devil, I can do what I want. And then,
I'm
like,
sorry.
he looks at Gage and then he does this little. And, like,
He does
this demon's
But
in the
I'm
mirror,
sorry.
nipples, like, pressed in the. And he's like, I'm like, what is this? What are we watching? And then like the bad CGI tell he went from this sex fiend to I'm Darth Maul and I'm gonna get you.
I'm sorry. But that tiptoe through the tulip song and the look of his realm though, regardless of him, is terrifying to me. Like the little puppets going up and down and the tiptoe through the tulips.
He's Pistachio from Pinocchio or whatever the old guy's name is. That's the vibe I got.
It's thoroughly like hellscape and children torture to me. That's what I got out of it. So it worked for me, though the CGI on the Red Devil isn't the best in the world. I find it effective, though I do agree with your points.
But Tenacious D is probably one of the best movies ever. And after that, I'm always saying, man, I have to go and watch this movie again because.
Well, I'll give it to them at least that they went with a Red Devil, like with that kind of tale, because that's not touched on like much in
ever.
film
This is the
anymore.
only time you see this demon in the rest of the series.
Well, in the series and in horror in general, because like usually when it's a devil in the story, it's like in a possession stance. I'm not saying that he's the devil, but like the traditional Red Devil that we all like think about when we come to like Christian devil.
Do you know why?
What's that?
That's the heavily memed devil you get. So every time you see that, what do you see? You see Darth Maul. You probably now see Tenacious D, or you see Satan saying, "Hey guys, it's my Sweet 16 party. What's going on?" Like you see that.
Yeah.
Like where's what's the dictator? Like, hey Satan, like you're definitely gonna get memed heavy.
In other senses, but I like seeing it in like a realistic standpoint almost. Because keep in mind I'm a '90s kid, and those like Red Devil ladies with the tails, like Lords of Acid albums were like my thing, and I wanted to be like one of those Red Devil ladies because I thought they were so sexy.
It's not the devil, but what's the name?
No, it's not.
There's a Onyx the Fortuitous in the Talisman of Soul. There is a big, huge red devil, Abaddon, I believe that's his name.
Makes sense. He's in lore.
Has a effective scene at.
Hey Billy, did you ever make the correlation? The Abaddon Hotel.
No.
Hell House LLC. The Abaddon Hotel.
Oh.
It's the demon Abaddon. Go ahead.
Now I got it.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, I'm not really caught up in my satanic readings, guys. Whoops.
Hey. I'm not a Satanist by any means, but I read things.
I mean, if most of the stuff that I read is about like demons pressing their nipples up to the like windows and licking their tongues, like, yeah, okay, cool.
I mean, technically, my favorite book is not a horror book, but so I'm not all horror. Well, that's a lie. I am all horror all the time. But Valley of the Dolls is very horrorful, even though it's not a horror story. Anyways, going into the further, we are in the further. He has gotten through the red door. He gets his child out of the change. They are running back, trying to get back to their bodies. This demon's chasing them.
Then all the ghosts start doing some weird, freaky stuff.
Well, see, this is where like I don't get why the ghosts wouldn't have done this initially, because the whole time Josh is going through the further, he's hearing Elise's voice to get him to where he needs to be. But as soon as they get him, Josh and Dalton get lost, they rely on his wife's voice to get them back. And as soon as she starts speaking, they're on it like white on rice, baby. Like they get swarmed by all the spirits.
Are they? Are they? Let's put that meme there, Bailey. Really? Because
no, they kind of they're the spirits are after them at this point.
Dalton for sure goes for like there for sure.
Yes.
Josh is like, hey, I remember you. Like I'm like, come on, buddy.
Yeah.
Like,
so
save it for another time.
Yeah, like Dalton's smart. The kid, of course, is a smart one.
I would say he's smart. Imagine being trapped there for 3 months. Of course, you just want to go back home to mom.
Because as soon as they get in the house, they stop in the kitchen. He's like, come on, Dad, come on, we got to go. And he kind of breaks off and bolts. And then Josh stops because he sees something. And he's like, oh, I remember you. Leave me alone, whatever it may be. And it goes back into, okay, we get our happy ending. They both got back to their bodies. We're good. Dalton's home. He's eating some spaghetti for the first time. And he says he's tired. And his mom's like, oh, you're never allowed to go to sleep again. Josh is talking to Elise in the other room, and they're having a discussion, and Elise senses something, doesn't she, Billy?
She does, and I don't know, this isn't another thing that, like, a good coincidence just happened. She just takes a camera and then snaps a shot, and Josh starts freaking out, saying, I told you not to take a picture. Jumps after her. She is...
like, full throttle, both hands, like... And we're like, no, not our Nightmare on Elm Street lady. Not the one that's been in Dead End. Not the one that's this iconic.
Not the one that's been a kingpin that also does the...
We adore this woman. You can't do this to us. And all of a sudden,
his wife, Renee.
His wife comes in, Renee, and she sees Elise blue. There's no getting her back at this point. She is blue.
Like and the color of my balls blue.
Yeah, she's blue. I mean, hey,
but this last jump scare was really effective, though. When she's going through the camera, and like
the wife goes and looks at the camera because Josh comes in. And he's like, "Oh no, Elise, what happened?" And his wife's already very sketchy about the situation. So she goes to the camera. She sees the picture. And when Elise shot that picture, we see what actually Elise saw. Elise saw that old woman in a black dress that has been haunting Josh since he was a child and got into Josh's body because Josh decided to have this little conversation with her instead of going right to his body.
In matters of seconds compared to 3 months, like not to mention.
Like, well, it makes sense in the fact that she's been after him since he was a child, and she's been waiting for this moment.
But that's perfectly fine. Dalton should have been the target, like, especially with the sequel and the origins of the Woman in Black.
Makes sense.
You would think she would prefer the childhood over the adult that's probably going to die of old age in the next 20 years.
Yeah, and then basically you hear Josh in the background call his wife's name after she sees the picture, and it goes black, and you see Insidious and the iconic violins. And it's just you're hoping for a sequel that I'm sure they weren't planning on, but this film did very well, and thankfully we got one, which we're going to be discussing right after this, and I'm excited for because it is a heck of a follow-up, guys, gals, non-binaries, and pals.
Ladies.
I was going to say ladies and gentlemen, but guys, gals, non-binary, pals is my thing. But I think that if you enjoyed this one, you're definitely going to enjoy the second one. We do get our girl Elise back, even though she is deceased.
No,
even though not spoiling anything, not saying that she's back alive or anything. Maybe she comes back in flashbacks. I don't know.
You guys are just gonna have to come back and find out. Subscribe, like, and then we're about to do some participation games with you, lovely folks. So Let's just
What's our
go.
game this week, Billy?
You.
Like, for everybody. Like, are we doing? What's the question for everybody this week?
So we can't do best deaths. We can't do.
No.
So the best gimmick that we can do for this movie is which scene made you jump the hardest?
Okay.
Do you want me to say mine first?
You go first. You go first.
So I know yours is probably red face, right?
Maybe.
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 I would say the one that made me jump the hardest was initially the girls, the twins, with the camera. That was a good gimmick that they never done again, but I enjoyed.
Okay. I think the red face the first time was the one that got me the most. I know it's stupid to some people, but it really did get me my first viewing. But rewatching this, I think personally, like, I'm going to put that as my answer, red face, because that's the one that got me the most. But rewatching it, I think when she goes up to the baby and that guy is behind the curtain in the red light, that terrified me with rewatching this film. I don't know what it was. Just that face behind that curtain got me.
That's a scene that you put on mute, and that wouldn't affect you in any way.
True. Though I will say, I think it got me because like his face behind that curtain kind of like caught me off guard this viewing. So I'm giving it an honorable
what would give me what would make me scared mostly. So the scene that made me scared the most is the further scene with the ghost.
Okay.
But that's not a jump scare. The scene that made me scared of a jump scare was the two twins standing in the doorway and then they smiling. That got me. That got me good.
Yeah. There's solid scares in this film. It's hard to be this effective with PG-13, in my humble opinion. And I think they killed the PG-13 horror aspect with this. Whether James Wan is to blame for some of the subpar ones we've had come out after this or not. I wouldn't blame him for it.
PG-13 horror is underrated, if you ask me.
It is. Well, I mean, we have, like, look at The Ring.
I was about to say, don't change your opposition. You keep saying... For a PG-13 horror,
it's not my favorite because I'm like a hardcore gore hound, okay? You got to realize that. I love gore. So for me, for PG-13 horror, I adore it. It's just not my favorite. So for me to love this much, it says something because I'm like a hardcore horror fan.
Sounds good. I can agree with it. It's hard to do gore in a ghost movie, because usually ghosts typically do possessions, mind games, and murder from the inside out, to where it's not like 13 Ghosts,
So I will say, and an honorable mention to Rob Loves Horror 93. This is his film, Stay Alive, unrated. Is a very good gory paranormal one. If you see the unrated version, do not see the theatrical cut. It's not worth it. It is not worth it. Ending's different. There's no gore. You have to see the unrated version, readily available on Amazon for a couple bucks. But yes, that is, if you want to go for a gory paranormal, that's a good one.
And if you are like me and get confused, Dead Alive is a good rated R horror movie.
Dead Alive.
The director of Hobbit and Lord of the Rings and all those fun movies directed this movie.
Dead Alive is amazingly underrated.
So
I own that film.
If you buy that by accident, it might be a better time. I'm just kidding. No. Not to undercut Rob. Stay Alive. Check that out. I haven't yet. I might. I have a long list. House of Illusions is next on mine. So who knows? That might be a pod.
Lord of Illusions. House of Illusions, sir.
Sorry, I'm in the gigolo phase of my life. Oh wait, that's Hall of Illusions. Whoops, I messed up. Tenfold, Billy, edit this out so you don't look like an idiot.
And on the next episode, we're talking about Showgirls. No, just play.
Corey Taylor's favorite movie. That's what he.
Hey, I'm telling you right now, I respect some Showgirls. I love Gina Gershon, but that's a discussion for another day.
So this next game is going to be a blind rank. I'm not doing it this time. Lil's doing it, but guess what we're doing? It's movie themed. Oh, Lil, did you cut out on me? Okay, there you are.
No, I didn't. I just probably screamed too loud and my mic said, haha, not today, Satan.
This is how the game's going to be played. She's going to start listing off movie titles, and I and you have to be wise where we're going to rank them. It's going to be 1 through 5. I could put it any order, but I cannot change my order. So let's go ahead and get started. What's the first movie you're giving me?
And subtle thing, there is a theme. So if you can pick up on the theme, it might be easier to place your titles. So the first one I'm going to give you, Billy, is Suspiria, the original.
Suspiria. It's like the darkness. I think that's a good movie.
Uh-huh.
I'll put it at 3. There's a lot of... if this is witchy...
You said 3?
Yeah, there's a lot of other witch movies that I like, so I'm banking on that. Superior. I like the Amazon remake too. That's kind of underrated. A lot of people hate it.
Don't get me started because I won't stop. We are going to do that one day because I'm obsessed with that. Please, just don't get me started because I won't stop. I that was my introduction to Mia Goth. Just I won't stop. I adore that film. But yes, you're putting that at 3, my friend.
3.
Okay. The second one is Last House on the Left, the original. You're wondering how these correlate, aren't you?
I know. That's the curve. Last House by Wes Craven.
Of course.
Is a fun movie.
Mm-hmm. It's a rough movie too.
I feel like that would be a perfect 3. Superior would have been a perfect 2.
You already picked 3,
I
Billy.
know. I think I'm going 4. 4. Did you hear me?
4?
4.
Okay. Good job. Good job. Okay. The next one is The Hills Have Eyes.
The original?
The original.
I like the original a lot. I'm putting that at 2.
Okay. And the next one is I Spit on Your Grave, the original, not the remake. If you've seen it,
I've seen it. I love that movie. I love the remake. I love the series. A lot of people can't handle it. I definitely don't think it's number 1. I do feel like if I'm ranking this honestly, it should be 5. But personally, in my heart of hearts, it shouldn't be 5. But that's where I'm putting it. I Spit
You're
on
putting
Your...
it at 5.
I Spit is at 5.
You're gonna be happy with your choice, my friend. You want to know what your number 1 is?
What is it?
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original.
Oh, yeah.
Your theme was 70s horror.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's a list I can live with.
Okay. I made Billy think this time, guys, gals, not binary pounds. I'm so proud of myself.
Do you know how bummed?
He stumped me.
Do you know how bummed out I'd be if I put I Spit on number 1 and Texas last?
I was waiting. I was hoping so hard.
That would have broke me.
I was hoping so hard. That's why I left Texas for last.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, that was Yep, this was a fun episode. You know what, guys? If you had fun too, check us out next time.
Yes.
Bye.